10 o'clock, time for the county general government meeting to order. First up, we need approval of the agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda.
Motion by Pulaski, who seconded it?
John will.
John. Commissioner Willis, thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. We move on to item 3, public comment. Any public comment? You see any public out there? Don't have any public today. Move on to item 4, the minutes from last month's meeting. We need a motion and support to approve them as written, or the correction you need.
I'll support.
Okay, supported, motion by Snell, supported by Pulaski. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Next up, item B, the administrator controller, landfill, Dalton Road landfill purchase. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, we've, as you guys know, with our the landfill out there, we've been trying to get permits and everything to build our wastewater treatment plant we want to put out there to take care of the leachate, which will resolve our $100,000+ of hauling expense annually for leachate. And of course, part of the problem has been that come to find out, we don't actually own all of that landfill, and the state has said we're not going to allow you to just build this, and we either have to create a lease or buy the property. They've offered to sell it to us for $1. We frankly think we should just own it outright. That way, because we're already responsible for all the liability, it's not going to change. We have Brad Berlinski here, our attorney, who's been handling this for us too. He's done the research and looked at the agreements and so forth to make sure we're on good ground there. We would rather be in charge of our destiny. I mean, as an example, there's an airplane club that flew their little private, toy plane. I don't want to say toy planes, but little toy planes on the landfill there. They mowed it, maintained it, took care of it, and because it's closed, these are closed landfills. Well, the state, once this all came up, the state realized, hey, who are these people? Why are they on our landfill? And I assume we probably, authorized it at some point way back when. I'm not sure when. So they kicked them off. And it's like, well, okay, great, thank you. If we have ownership for the $1, we would probably invite them back, because if they're going to mow it, let them. From my perspective, why should we have to mow it? But the more important part is we get to go ahead and proceed with building our little processing facility to treat the leachate there. And that's the proposal. And Brad's here, of course, if you have any questions as far as from a legal perspective or liability, I'm sure he'd be glad to answer. Questions or concerns?
I suppose giving it to the people that fly the planes is out of the question?
Yes, that's out of the question.
Discussion. Commissioner Pulaski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to ask our advisor a question, and I think Mike alluded to it earlier, but whenever you pick up a property of this sort of exposure, the question is, what are you taking on that you didn't have before? And I think the answer is, if you'll confirm it, is we already have all the liability, and by owning the property, at least we have more options, and we don't have to consult the state of Michigan to implement whatever we may choose to do with the property. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. This has been 40+ years in the making, where we've had liability all along, and we've acted as such. We've been good stewards and responsible landowners. And then this came about when we were continuing this project on trying to save some money, and then we ran into a roadblock, being the state of Michigan. And so we have all the liability. Why don't we have ownership?
Okay. I think that answers my question, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Sir, any other discussion?
I'm going to move to approve the purchase.
Pardon me?
Move to approve the purchase.
Okay, is there a second? Motion by Snell, supported by Walls. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Finance.
Good morning. So I am here to go over November's financial statements with you. There's no surprises. Our expenditures are below our benchmark. Our benchmark is 91.7%, and our expenditures year-to-date as of November was 87.8%. And our revenues are also above our three-year average at 96.8%, and the three-year average was at 94.5%. Are there any questions regarding November's financial statements?
Ask a question?
Commissioner Walls, Commissioner Plesky, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At a meeting last week, it was stated that our general fund has a $4.5 million surplus in year 2024. First of all, I don't know whether the year is even closed yet, and I realize it hasn't been audited. But is that anything like close to being true?
Now, as of today, we're at $3.3 million. The plan, according to our amended budget that the board approved, is to move $2.4 million into the capital fund. And then I'm still expecting roughly another $200,000 of payables that have not been recorded yet for year end. So that will get us to approximately $700,000 of surplus. Now, there are still unknowns that we don't know about yet. Big ones is taxes receivable, which will also affect that number. And we'll also have a prepaid for insurance liability that I don't know what that number is either. So it could swing either way with the $700,000. And we also have other adjustments too that are unknown, like other receivables, other prepaids, accruals. So you are right, Mr. Plesky. We are not closed yet, but because there are still some unknowns. But as of what I do know, we're right at $700,000 right now, but that's going to change.
I suppose my point in asking the question is that for someone to suggest that we have such a large surplus was manifestly irresponsible and premature
Exactly.
and
Yes,
incorrect.
that is very true. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Tony, I'm gonna give you, be nice, else I won't call on you again.
Pardon me?
Okay.
Couldn't hear you.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you. On page 6 of your report, there's a item, account 280, jail millage. I don't understand that at all. Do we still have a jail millage
At the
function?
end of 24, at the end of 24, it is gone. But we did have monies that we had carried forward for the past couple of years. So, but as of 24, that millage monies is gone.
Thank you.
Yes. For 25, it'll be zero. Thank you.
This is me.
Taking it later.
Yeah. Yeah. We have here before you a proposal or a request to provide a salary increase for all the elected officials and correspondingly with their deputies to meet the policy, as well as a 3% increase for the commissioners. It has been, we last gave elected officials an increase in 2022, and the last increase for county commissioners was 2017. And of course, the chief deputies, they receive whatever non-union receives up to 90%. So when I mention here the undersheriff and so forth, that's because they're at 90%. They would not receive an increase unless their elected official receives an increase. Questions, concerns?
Go ahead, Mr. Pulaski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the administration doing this analysis for us. It seems to me fairly long overdue, especially for our other elected officials to receive some adjustment in their pay. And I would move the staff recommendation. Hope for a second. Thank you.
We have support. Support. Okay, so, motion by Pulaski, supported by Willis. All in favor of this indicate by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? Passes unanimously. It'll be sent to the full board. Next up, we have the IT report.
Good morning. Here this morning to provide our semi-annual update, and I'm happy to say there has not been a lot of exciting changes in IT, seeing as how excitement in IT usually translates into expensive and/or dangerous items. So we'll take a little bit of boredom and things going the way they're supposed to for a change. Big difference that we've had over the last year or two since I've been here is that I feel like we've been able to turn the corner from things, making sure things are working, to now where that is the expectation for every given day, and we're turning that into how can we take what is working and make it better, make it more efficient, where can we have more of an impact on services that are being provided. So one of the things that we're looking at a little differently is how are we breaking up our services? Who is receiving our services? So in the ticket analysis, instead of just looking at it as a whole of how many tickets are we processing, we're breaking that out by department as well. And one thing that does come out on this report is at the very end of the line, you'll see there is a significantly high bar for external township and city calls. That is due to us supporting our local public safety departments, where we actually support the password resets, login information for all of the public safety systems. So there is a significant portion of help desk calls, both during and after hours, that do support our local environments as well as the county offices directly. Along our completed projects, just a couple of things to note out here. Completed and in-progress projects. We do have the flyover scheduled for this spring for GIS to update our GIS imagery. That was approved last month. That will be taking place this spring, and we're hopefully going to have the new data in place by fall, at which point we'll have it uploaded into our systems and the parcel viewer and the other ways to make that available to the public. We've been able to work with a couple of departments on implementing new software systems, better utilize the systems that we have in place today, like OnBase for our document management and retention systems, and how can we leverage that to both make sure we're getting what we're paying for and also trying to make people's lives a little bit easier and more consistent with the business processes we have to support. And we've also spent a significant amount of time this past year on lien audits. The state came through and audited all of the local departments, and as I said, we do host services for them. So as part of that, we do get involved in those audits, as well as the audits for our internal teams, prosecutor's office, sheriff's department, and anybody else who's touching that kind of data. We've done 7 of them this past year. The only thing that has come up on it is something that we need to continue working towards, is to continue to push that multi-factor authentication out. That is something we do have a plan for, and we've already begun doing it. They've now made that a requirement as of last fall. So that was actually after most of those audits had already gone through. But that is something we're definitely making sure we have in place so the next time around, we've got it there. Our auditors seem to be pretty happy with how we're doing things, to the extent that our cyber incident response plan was actually picked up to be used as an example for other counties. So I was very happy with how that has gone this year. One of our major fiber projects, or our major fiber project out there to connect the tower to the fairground, is progressing at last. We've gone through the city, we've gone through consumers, and we are now awaiting one item out of 15 that needs to be completed for the railroad permit to go through. So it has taken the better part of a year and a half just to get to the permitting phase of this 3.5, 4 blocks of fiber. That is a new personal record for the amount of time it's taken for me to see one get through in 15 years of working with fiber. So that has been a character building experience, but there is light at the end of that tunnel. Absolutely. We are continually auditing our Comcast connections as well. And where that comes into play is going to be primarily in 2026. So the 5-year contracts that we're operating under right now were all signed and dealt with ARPA funding. And they went through some pretty significant changes from where the county had been in the past. We're evaluating all of those for how effective they've been, where can we utilize funding differently, and how can we get that streamlined to where, as that ARPA funding is no longer there when we do our renewals, instead of a funding cliff, we're looking at more of a more streamlined, gradual approach to how that new contract is going to work moving forward. So some of this you've already seen, where we had a couple of the garages come forward as a renegotiation, where that alone, between those two items, ends up saving the better part of $100,000 over the life cycle of a next contract. So there are some additional savings that we're looking to hopefully get out of that contract when we renegotiate in 2026. And we're planning it out ahead of time so that we're well informed and can adjust as opposed to make forklift changes to things when we need to. One item of note is the countywide broadband initiative, the BEAD grant. That has been on hold since July as we waited for the results to be finalized from our challenge process by the federal government. As you might recall, the main challenge we had was there was company Mercury Wireless that was claiming they provided service, high-speed bandwidth service over the entire county, which meant that there was a very limited amount of funding available. We challenged that successfully. It was approved just before Christmas, and so that has led to an increase of grant-eligible locations of approximately 70% in Jackson County. Bringing our total to just under 13,000 locations that are eligible to be grant funded. So the next step from there is that we are going to be working with vendors. I have talked to multiple vendors at this point who have now stated that they are interested in moving forward with doing an application in Jackson County to provide some level of service. In most cases, it's people that already have a footprint in the county and they're looking at expanding where their plans are already taking them. And so we're going to be reviving our committee meetings with the broadband committee to entertain some of those, look at them. What they're going to be asking for from us as a county and as a community is coordination of letters of support for their proposals is going to be the primary means of interaction that we're going to have with this grant, because again, they will be the grant applicants and recipients. We will not hold it here, but what we can do is make sure that the communication is being consistent with our townships and with the other stakeholders involved to make sure that we're getting the most we can for Jackson County through the process. Couple of notes on security really quick. That is always something that is top of mind as we see one site after another continuing to get hit. barely a week goes by that there's not somebody on our statewide listserv that is providing notice of some new attack campaign, successful or otherwise. Our total vulnerabilities, we are down to no known critical vulnerabilities and have remained that way for the better part of the last year. We have gotten down to one vulnerability that is listed as a high vulnerability. That is one that we're having some issues resolving because it involves the state as much as us. So we're working on getting that one eliminated as well. And the rest of them are more best practice related issues. And even amongst that, we're down to about 12 across all of our outward facing services right now. So we've done a lot to consolidate that risk profile, get that pushed down. Multiple members of the team have worked on that to be able to isolate and eliminate those vulnerabilities. The biggest challenges we see going forward are going to be new technologies. AI is changing the conversation that's being had in the industry weekly. So that is very much a moving target. We do have people that are utilizing it in some fashion or another. A lot of the vendors that we work with for the products that we support today are going to be incorporating it in some fashion into their environments and into their products. So that is going to be something that's going to be upon us one way or another. And so where we are at is we are looking to make sure that we're staying ahead of it in terms of policy and procedure for making sure that we're doing it safely and securely. Cost pressure of software increases. The market has not slowed down at all in its price increases. Some of our core software applications I've received budgetary quotes on for what it's going to look like for our next replacement in the next 2 to 3 years. We're getting quotes back for as much as 4 times the price of what we're paying today for some of these products. So how are we going to handle that? What sort of alternatives are available? Can we do what we're doing differently? Are really a lot of the conversations we're having right now to where we can ease those transitions as they happen. And goal-wise, as I said at the beginning, we're continuing to mitigate any vulnerabilities that are out there, and we're also making sure that everybody's using what they've got. We're trying to raise that level of expectation of what you can do with the technology that we've bought and paid for at this point. You know, if we have the wireless and it's up and running solidly, how can we make sure it's being utilized fully? If we have OnBase and we're paying for it, how can we make sure we're using that to the fullest extent? And then long-term, sustainability. What can we do to be more efficient? What can we do to help others be more efficient? How can I keep the staffing plan moving along? You know, we are fully staffed at this point. How do we make sure that's survivable to where if and when somebody moves on, we don't have an interruption in service or our knowledge base? So happy to take any questions you have.
Commissioner Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate all the work you do. It is amazing how much reliance we put on IT. And I saw some things here that made me appreciate what you're doing, the 40% reduction in remote access. That's got to be good for security. You and I talked a little bit about the BEAD grant and the last mile cost and the fact that we can put it there. It doesn't mean the consumer is going to buy the service. And then I don't know what's going to happen. I believe Elon Musk has dropped another couple 100,000 satellites in service. And not only talking about being able to hook up your cell phone to satellite service, but internet. So I don't know where we're going with this. And the last thing, the migration of BSNA, you know, I've used that product for a long, long time. But thinking about the cost of software, myself looking at, I've had Microsoft forever. I had Outlook when it was Franklin Planner. So it's been a long time. And I'm looking at migrating over to the Google package. I don't know if that makes any sense here, but, and it may not, but I appreciate everything that you're doing. We definitely rely on IT more than we even realize. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. When it comes to the satellite services, that is definitely something that I see we're going to continue to move forward with, regardless of what comes out of this grant. I would not be shocked to see some changes still coming down the pipe, even though this grant falls under the NTIA. The FCC does weigh in on some of the issues regarding it, and there is a change in leadership coming in next week with the FCC that is more satellite friendly, I'll say. And at some point in these last mile circumstances in either very remote or very rural areas, there are situations where at the end of the day, a wireless solution makes more sense, to the extent that we're now seeing AT&T announce that they are pulling out of copper service in the next 5 years across the country, which is huge in the technology infrastructure world.
Commissioner Plesky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll also say we appreciate the work that you and your staff are doing in this very important realm of county management. Out in my area, the question of broadband availability is acute in the rural area. So I want to make sure I can kind of describe what you've done correctly. I'm not sure I have the technical knowledge to do that. But we have, by the challenge process, we have increased to about 13,000 locations from whatever would have qualified before, which if my math is correct, that would have been about 7,500 or so, 7,600
Correct.
locations to now with the challenge, now about 13,000. That gives me a couple of numbers to put in front of folks. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Okay.
And the state, I'll make sure that I can get the address out. The state has updated the challenged map now. So now that that's official, there is a site that people can go out to for the state of Michigan and actually put in an address and see if it is now eligible for funding or not.
And the implications for the residents out in my very sparsely populated area is that they're more likely to be able to get affordable broadband in the future as a result of the work that you're doing.
That is the hope.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
I have a question. Is this company that's claiming to have all these customers, are they a real company? I've never heard of them.
They are a real company. They're more in place in Ohio and Indiana and other states further south. They do have a presence in Michigan. There are a couple of areas, but we even got to the extent of having some of our staff call them out and see if they could provide services. And in some of the cases, after showing up, they couldn't provide service. So it does have a presence. That presence was just vastly overstated. And it was taken as a guarantee that if you live within so many miles of a tower, they'll be able to provide you a service, which that's not the way wireless works.
What's the name of that company?
As Mercury.
Mercury? All right, well, good job on heading them off at the pass. They're gonna come in and steal the service we needed, it sounds like to me. Any other questions? Administrator Overton.
Could you share with the board our efforts to correct the sound or provide alternatives?
Yes. So right now we're progressing with two different alternatives. The first one we're going to try is on each one of these microphones on the stands, there is a feedback channel where we can actually plug in a headset into it. It was not set up with that in mind on these devices when it was put in a couple of years ago, but that is something that we are going to be enabling and providing a couple of headsets so that if you need any assistance with hearing what's going on during the meetings, you'll be able to use those. And then based on how we're seeing that, we're looking at some other alternatives that have more of a broadcast assistance as well.
I guess my question a little bit is does anyone have concern with that, us providing headsets that plug in, that way you'll be able to hear? If not, that would be good. All right.
So,
And we can always buy extra if you need them.
so then will I be able to understand Commissioner Pileski in Russian? Because we'll have our full interpreters here for
Get the UN style
United Nations. Yeah, the
earpiece.
UN, I can wait for my
Je ne
interpretation.
parle pas le ruski, s'il vous plaît.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it includes an AI translator yet, but
Not
it
yet.
could down the road.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah. We're hopefully going to have that in place for the next cycle of meetings next month.
I think I've outlived my ears.
And one other, if I may, board docs is going away and something else is coming. When
Yes.
might that happen?
So the Board Docs product is coming to end of life. They were also bought out a couple of years ago, and that company is now ending the product. So we are going to, after doing an analysis and looking at what else is out there, we're going to be moving to the product that that company also has, which is Diligent Community is the name of the product. We're going to be doing this over the next couple of months. We're waiting to hear back on the exact scheduling time frame, but we are going to be continue to allow you to be using Board Docs until all the training has been taken place and the conversion of the existing documents in the library are moved over to the new product.
I have some questions. The city of Jackson actually went to Diligent for a while, had several technicalities, technical issues with it. Have they, the state of their correction in those processes, or?
I have not engaged with the city on that one.
Okay.
We are going to be following along with it very carefully during the implementation process, especially when it comes up with the conversion. So the intent is going to be is that it's going to be a very deliberate rollout instead of just a cutoff.
Okay, 'cause we worked with them quite a bit to the point where they literally had some people come out. They couldn't figure it out to the point where they actually refunded in the city switch organization. So
Wow.
I'm aware of that.
I will reach out to them and see what their experience was then.
Thank you, sir.
To that point, Lifeway also has Diligent. And, things are just different, okay? You like what you have because you're used to it. But Lifeways is also using Diligent, so for whatever that's worth, it's worth talking with their IT people on that as well.
Yeah. And in looking at it, we looked at about 4 different products across the board with it. There was a huge variety in cost out there. This was the only exception that was not at least twice the price of what we're paying right now.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to receive your report.
Okay, motion by Pileski, support by Snell. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate what you're doing.
Good morning. Yeah, we've basically been working with Region 2 Planning Commission for the last 7 months on updating our next recreation plan. Our previous plan expired at the end of 2024. So each 5 years we do this. It's a requirement to be eligible for DNR grants, but it also, I think it shows that we're thinking through our projects and really reflecting what the community wants and what the inventory of what exists already is available. So this started back in April when we started working with Region 2. We worked all summer on community surveys. We got just over 500 surveys, which is more than double the last time we did this over 5 years ago. So I thought we got a pretty good amount of community input. We had a QR code on each, a sign at each one of our county parks. We had a booth the week of the fair. So we got quite a bit of input for this plan. And we basically analyzed all of our existing conditions and coupled that with the input and put together a set of goals and community action plan for the next 5 years. So just a little more about the process. We had this plan for public review for 30 days from December through January 7th, basically. And we had a public hearing on January 8th. That's kind of the last opportunity for input. So we advertised that well on our social media and our website and in MLive. But kind of the last step with the action or with the recreation plan is for your highest governing body to adopt it. So that's what this is on here for today, is basically a resolution to adopt the plan at next week's full board meeting.
Commissioner Pulaski, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on a high level, what is within the plan with respect to the Cascades?
Yeah, so the Cascades, I mean, we are always we're fundraising currently to restore the Cascades. You know, that's kind of a carryover from our last action plan, truthfully. So we're still kind of finishing up that to restore the Cascades. You know, just this past year, the Cascades champion team was reinvigorated, the fundraising team. So the goal is to raise $3.5 million, and we're about 1.7. So we're just under halfway there to reaching that goal of the fundraising to finish renovating the falls.
So in the next 5 years, it's just fundraising, no physical work?
No, I think we'll be.
To speak of, that is.
Yeah, no, the fundraising, I would hope that we can wrap up in the next 12 months or so, 12 to 18 months.
And then what within the next 5 years?
So that would be concrete, structural type replacements, the mechanical, moving the pumps above ground. Basically, all the electrical has been upgraded, and we still have some structural and mechanical upgrades left. So.
Okay, so fundraising followed by some pretty substantial work as a result of having the money to actually do it.
Yeah. You
Okay.
know, the group has basically been saying, you know, Captain Sparks kind of set us up for the first 100 years, and now it's time to put some real money into it and make sure it's around for another 100 years.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move to adopt the Jackson County Recreation Plan.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Before we vote on that, I would like to know when the Parks millage, when does this mature?
It is, yep.
Don't want to get caught in a bind where we have projects have done a lot of money into them and no more money coming in. Do you see that as I guess it's a possibility, but not a likelihood? Okay. Okay, we'll move forward with the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimous. Thank you, Kyle. Next.
Yeah, next is a agreement with Wolverine fireworks display for the next 3 years of fireworks shows at the Cascades. This we had an agreement that just expired again the last 3 years with Wolverine. Wolverine has done our fireworks shows for as long as I can tell, actually. We do put this out to bid. Basically, we have a predetermined amount with our sponsor. It's covered by a sponsorship, and we get that to as many companies as we can. We got it to 5 companies this year. We did just have the one bid. Basically, Wolverine is the company that can fit into our schedule and fit into our budget, but we've been happy with them. They kind of know the drill, and we think they do a good job for us. But so this would be for the next 3 years at the Cascades, the 3 holiday weekends throughout the summer here. So.
Looks pretty straightforward to me. Do we have any questions on the fireworks? It's a 3-year plan.
To adopt the staff recommendation.
Support.
Motion by Pulaski, supported by Snell. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, passes unanimously. Next up, another parks item, your semi-annual report, sir.
Yes, and actually I uploaded our annual report as the semi-annual report. So this is our kind of year-end, something we've done since the millage has started. This was year 6 of the park millage. So, but something that we like to do each year just to kind of show the progress, and I'll just kind of hit some of the highlights here and be happy to answer any questions along the way or at the end. But, you know, starting, I guess, with page 4, It's been 6, 7 years now, but if you think back, these are the different bullet points that we talked about throughout the educational campaign of the park millage, all the things that we said we were going to do with the park millage money. So we really like to show the progress on those bullet point items. And page 5 kind of talks about how we get the word out. So, we send this report to the Chamber of Commerce, sends it to all their different members. I attended the Township Supervisor meeting back in November and was the guest speaker to kind of give an update on park millage related progress. We do as many presentations as we're invited to, or we can find at different service clubs to talk about all the great things happening. We also do quite a bit in the summertime on our social media, something called Transformational Tuesday, where we show before and after pictures of all of our different projects. So we've got an e-newsletter that goes to over 4,000 people, basically people that have registered for camping or picnic shelters or things like that, but we're always looking to grow that database. But always looking for ways to get the word out, and these are some of the things that we've been doing. But if you've got other meetings that you're involved with and want to get that out, let me know. Just a little bit about around the parks, it says. We did submit one grant application this past year to the DNR Trust Fund program. We learned in December that it was successful, so that was to renovate Minor Mills County Park. So you'll see a resolution coming later this month or later this year to accept that grant, basically. So, since 2019, since we've had the park millage, we've been able to secure $8 million now with grants and private donations. So we've been really leveraging that park millage funding, which that's the thing about grants. They're a lot easier to get when you have match money. So it's been good to stretch that and take it even further with grants. So a little more about just the department in general. We've got 16 picnic shelters around the park system. Those had 357 reservations this past year. So well used for birthday parties and family reunions and all sorts of things. Our 2 campgrounds remain very busy, so Pleasant Lake and Swains Lake. Pleasant Lake had 595 reservations. Swains Lake had 629 reservations this past year, so pretty much almost at capacity or at capacity every weekend, and then quite a bit of use throughout the weekdays as well. So kind of flip-flops each year, it seems like, which one has been more popular, but last year Swains was just a little bit ahead. The Cascades, so like I mentioned, I'll talk more about it towards the end, but the renovations, but overall attendance last year, we had just over 23,000 between the Cascades and the splash pad. That's folks that paid to get inside the gates, basically. The park itself, we know through some data collecting this past year, on a fireworks show night, July 3rd, we had 22,000 people in the park. So those fireworks shows are very busy for the park and very good revenue for the folks that pay to get into the Cascades on those nights as well. We kind of had a couple of new events last year, a crafts and market that our staff put together. And we continued with our Wednesday night family nights, just looking for different programming opportunities to keep people coming. American One Event Center was our 5th year of operation. 4th year, actually, is what it says. So 4th year of operation. We continue to be pretty steady, but we're really starting to think more strategically going forward about ramping up recruiting new events and making sure that we're staying fresh and keeping new events coming as well. So we worked hard this past year to really think about weekday use and getting more meetings in there throughout the day, weekdays. So Tremaine Meeting Room saw a huge increase last year, but we continue to be pretty steady at the event center. Same downstairs here in the ballroom. Our parks event center staff coordinates any kind of rentals there for proms or wedding receptions, and you can see the bar graph there of how that's grown since opened late in 2021. So. But at 35 events this past year downstairs in the ballroom. So that's been a popular spot for some weddings. Just a little bit about our parks maintenance and operations. Lots of mowing, lots of plowing, lots of cleaning up after those 357 park picnic shelter reservations. Lots of winterizing and getting things ready in the spring for water lines and things like that. Lots of tree cleanup, especially on the Falling Waters Trail. but just to kind of give you a sense of what our maintenance staff does there as well. I'll just highlight a few park improvement projects. You saw the bullet points at the beginning where we talked about improving boat launch areas and playgrounds and things like that. So just a couple of examples of some things we did at Lime Lake and Clark Lake. Always keeping that playground safety surfacing freshened up. The restrooms at the American One Community Recreation Center were upgraded last year, so huge upgrade there that we did with some private funding from American One Credit Union. So that place has been busy, as you see in the back here, of our community partners with Crossroads Pickleball. Upgraded a lot of our picnic shelter and bathroom building roofs this year with new metal roofs. And always working on trail improvements. One of the things that's been popular in our last two community recreation plan surveys. People love to see trails, want to see them maintained, want to see them expanded. So we're always keeping up on crack sealing and putting down new asphalt on the Falling Waters Trail. So let's see. I guess I'll kind of conclude with Cascades Golf Course. We had all-time record high in revenue this past year. It was just over, I don't see it in here, but it was just over $900,000. I think that was the first time we went over $900,000 for revenue. So strong, since 2020, it seems like it's been on the climb, but it doesn't seem to be slowing down. So good things there at the golf course. Lots of people playing lots of rounds there. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mike Overton, go ahead.
Kyle, this is great. It's, we do this internally, I understand.
Yes, yep.
And we do not print some glossy publication or anything though, right? We keep our costs down?
We print a small amount for presentations and things like that, but these are on our website each year. There's links to every year.
So when you say we print, what were you talking, copy machine here? Or what were we
Yeah,
talking
and
about?
we use our copy machine.
You're running a copy machine, okay. All right. So it's not like we have an outside printer printing a glossy brochure that's a,
We haven't in the past, no.
okay, thank you.
I would just like to say that between the vision of the Parks Board and Kyle's leadership and the public funding our system, we have a very beautiful group of parks throughout the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to receive the report.
Motion by Snell to receive the report, supported by Walls. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Kyle.
Great, thank you.
Find where we're at. Oh, next up, we are on item 5, the claims. Everybody signed the claims, I believe. Need a motion and support to pay them.
So move.
Have a motion and a support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. We have no other minutes. Reporting schedule. Next month, we have finance. We have the EG semi-annual. We return to public comment. We have no public comment. Committee member comment. Meeting adjourned.